I think there is that delusion that because you're on YouTube, you know, you're making money and you can do this. You know, you got an endless budget. Like, it's the opposite.
Yeah.
For most people out there, we're struggling to pay for the projects we put out there in the first place.
You have a weird obsession with the hand trucks from Biltema, right?
Well, I might think that, but yeah, I have built a couple of projects with the Sekketrolle, as you call it here in Norway, from Biltema.
Yeah, it's a motorcycle, a drift bike, a snowmobile.
Yeah.
Motorcycle.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's quite a range, but it's basically just vehicle based.
Yeah. Why?
It seems like you don't have an engineering degree, do you?
No.
You just make.
Yeah, I think I have like I think that I've got a talent for something. I don't know what exactly it is, but I can definitely see things in my brain and then somehow use my hands to create it, essentially. I always have a vision what it looks like in my head. Sometimes it turns out way better than I expected. Sometimes it turns out exactly how I expected, but it never turns out less than I expected, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, they don't look dull. They look and feel fast and actually well built for what they are, those kind of projects.
Well, I don't know. I don't know about that. But.
Okay, the ones, two sketchy things that I've done with you. One was sketchy because it felt wrong, was the Euro kind of pallet truck.
The pallet go-kart?
Yeah, just felt wrong on all levels. It shouldn't. Pallets shouldn't be able to move that fast.
No, it was actually really fun.
Yeah, and you had the dead zone in the steering was like, yeah, I don't know, 20, 30 degrees. and
well, what do you expect? It was a pallet go-kart.
And the other one that felt kind of sketchy was the drift shopping cart.
Oh, that was I watched that video literally like 3-4 days ago with a student of mine, and they're like, "You're crazy." I'm like, maybe I was a little crazy.
But it's super fun though to drive those things that you've made.
Yeah, it's that's the biggest goal, is to actually see if it works after you spend all this time building it.
The things that I built is they're not as spectacular. You make them and you wear them, and that's it. With your things, you make them and then you sit in them, and then they do the magic, right? Then you have either the drift cart or the rally cart or any other thing. It actually moves and brings a kind of adrenaline that is the result of what you've built and the fact that you get to go fast, right?
I disagree. The first magic is looking at it.
Okay.
Like, the first magic is when you see it, you're like, that's cool. So I think like this looks cool, right?
When pulling into your driveway with the garage door open and just seeing this car come into view, it made my heart skip a beat. It was like awesome.
Well, I mean, you've been involved in this project, so it probably means a lot more than most people.
Yeah,
so
fair. But it's stunning visually as well. That's something you seem to be able to deliver on. Like when you go back to the hand truck vehicles, you also always deliver on the visual aspect as well. Even though it's non-functional at all, you have that little extra something.
Well, you know, us males are visual. It's got to have the right curves, the right form and shape.
But how did you start making stuff? Have you always made stuff, or?
Yeah, look, if you go back, that's one of my favorite subjects at school, was like woodwork and metalwork and stuff. I didn't know I was really into it. Like, my father was not a creative person or a handy person at all. And then on top of that, I went to high school and we just started making things, and I realized like, oh, I really enjoy this, and I'm actually kind of good at this. And then I had a couple of teachers that were really good to sort of pick that up and push me to try and be better. And I I still remember my woodwork teacher, Mr. Jones. In fact, he came to visit me here in Norway. You know, so for those who don't know, I grew up in Australia, in Sydney. And yeah, he came to visit me here in this garage last summer, and you know, it was a strange experience having your teacher come visit you in another country and be essentially a fan of your work. It's kind of fun. But he always pushed me. He never gave me full marks, even though a lot of my stuff was way better than everybody else's. He never ever gave me like a 10 out of 10 or a, you know, 100 points or whatever it was. I can't remember back then. He always put me like in the maybe high 90s, but then never gave in. Always had critique where I could be better, and I think that stuck a lot.
Yeah,
what I do. So
I've been involved in a few of your projects, and that always seems to be your modus operandi. Like, it can be better. You can make it better, and you always go that extra little bit to make it better, not necessarily visually but functionally, and like with this car where you install the headlights, even though it was a retrofit that really didn't add much functionality, but it makes it that much better, right?
The added functionality, it looks cool as hell.
Yeah, fair.
You could turn it on and off in a switch, I mean.
And you have brake lights.
And I have brake lights. Yeah. So I mean, the details is what I live for.
Yeah.
Because I get off on the small details. That's why the car behind us here is cool, because it is detailed. It's not just a resemblance of, you know, a Toyota Yaris rally car. It is the Toyota Yaris rally car, just smaller.
Yeah.
You know,
it's let's talk a bit more about this. I will show whatever footage I can grab, but this is one of your longest running projects, right?
Yeah, it's taking about 13 months to build. But actually, it started a long time ago. I've had this idea for a long time, never really had the, I guess, expertise or the money to pull it off. And then I saw a video by a Swedish maker called Critical, and he 3D printed like a little Volvo, a police car or something. And I thought, oh, you can 3D print a car. So maybe that's an option I could do. And then literally as I saw that, like I went to this maker event called the Maker Fest, and I met you there, and you got all this 3D printing stuff, and I was like, let me ask him about 3D printing a car. I don't know what you thought about that, but
I was my first thought was that you seem like a cool guy. I looked at a few of your videos before that event, and I thought that maybe we can do something together. And then you went balls to the walls and like, can you 3D print a car? And I was like, yeah, I can, maybe. That's 2.5 years ago, and here we are with a 3D printed car. And yeah, I'm just speechless looking at it.
pretty cool, right?
Yeah, and like that's where we started as friends. You asking me to 3D print a car, or if that was possible, and you followed through. A lot of people that ask if something is possible ask for the curiosity of it, right? People don't usually follow through, but you've done that in a major way.
Well, it's interesting because when I met you and I talked about 3D printing a car, I hadn't started on the pallet go-kart yet. I think I'd done the jets. No, I hadn't done the jets.
No, that was after.
So I made a pivot about a year, or probably about 2 years ago now, just to focus on vehicles.
Yeah, because you had this couch with beer in it, and this this amazing costume for your son. for Halloween.
That's still upset.
It's scary. It's so scary. When you look at I remember looking at the video from that, and when you see him walking around for Halloween, you film him from the behind.
Yeah.
And like, that's a cute bear. And then he turns around with a grotesque mouth and teeth and blood everywhere. It's quite like a change of style from just where you look at it from.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a bit of a journey. I've been doing a bunch of different stuff. Like, it actually started probably about, it has to be like 12 years ago, I think, realistically. I was in the military in Australia. I worked with a submarine squadron as like a mechanic on the submarines. And then we decided I didn't want to do this anymore. So we moved to Norway because my wife was Norwegian, and we started up here, and I was greatly depressed working here and not really happy with anything I was doing. And so I decided I was going to build my daughter like a little soapbox car, and it kind of went a little bit crazy. As I started pouring quite a lot into it, and then I got that same feeling I got from my teacher. People started to say like, "Oh, how amazing! That's really cool." And I was like, "Oh yeah, maybe I'm good at this. Maybe this is where I should focus on." So I went down this whole path of not building little cars, but like woodworking. So I began working at a high school in the woodworking department, and then I even became like a furniture maker for a little bit as well. And yeah, it was a bit of a funny road because I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I thought being like a woodworker was the thing I should do, but really it turned out it was just being creative was the most important thing, and building things that I wanted to build. So it evolved after being quite depressed with working as a furniture maker, cutting squares of MDF and sanding them a lot. I realized that wasn't for me either, and I then started working at a daycare, but I worked part-time. So I think we decided, me and my wife, to allow me 2 days a week where I didn't work. And that was allowing me to be in the garage making things and trying to work out what I was all about.
Yeah. From what I know of you, it's not necessarily the making of things that gets you going. It's the making the concept and then follow through making what you envisioned you want to make. Like furniture making, you have a template, make this template and build it. Building that is something different than you, from idea and design to the actual making, gives you that extra boost, right? So,
yeah, I mean, I have this thing on the wall there, make ideas reality, and that is like kind of my mantra. I make ideas into reality, and that's what I like. If someone gave me a plan, I'd be depressed about making it. I'm like, what is this shit? No, thank you. But I definitely like creating and finding engineering solutions and visual solutions. So, for example, if we talk about some of the earlier projects, I always had an eye for how it should look and how it should function. I think that was the key balance, and I always found it immensely challenging, and I always took on bigger projects than I should have with my expertise, and I end up leaning on people to help me, and the internet and YouTube and all the rest to try and work out how to move forward. So like the sofa beer fridge is what I call that project, is essentially a refrigerator inside a sofa, but it has like a hidden drawer that comes out under voice command. It has like a conveyor belt system, kind of like a snowmobile, that rolls the cans or the bottles around and delivers them into the drawer. And for me, I had this idea how it should work, and then how it looked and felt was really important as well. It was just pretty much a year of failure. and we eventually got it working. And when I say we, I had a lot of help. Some people, some old friends in Australia helped me with the coding and things like that, just to, because I couldn't quite get the coding right, and I would send it to them and they'd say, oh, you've mucked up this here and there. Or, oh, okay. So we fixed that, and then we got it working, and it's a pretty cool project. I've got it upstairs in my lounge room. It's never really used, but it's cool to like at least show some people eventually when they come into the house.
It's a showpiece. Like, yeah.
And the thing is, it looks the part. Like when you open it up, you know, it's got a glass top. You know, and you can see all the mechanics. It's got lighting inside. It's not just like a bang up, you know, bunch of tape. And
just
glue.
a fridge put in there. It's visually stunning as well.
Yeah, so, you know, that's, again, going back to what I do, is I like to make it look visually correct as well, and functional. So, yeah, it's been, I've done a bunch of stuff. You know, the list, if you go on my YouTube channel, you go back, you can see I've done all sorts of things, everything from like sculpting through to like mechanical things to electromechanical things, and you know, and I had this philosophy before, at least on YouTube, that like I should just do whatever I want, and that doesn't really work for YouTube actually.
YouTube is fickle.
So, you know, unfortunately, with YouTube, you have to have a niche and a specific genre you should fit in, and then you can build momentum. Because people, you know, you have to see it like a restaurant. You don't go to the Chinese restaurant and order a hamburger. You know, it's not quite the thing. You order Chinese food, and that's what everyone expects in YouTube channels. You can't have everything on the menu, because people go there expecting one thing only. And so, 2 years ago or so, I pivoted to motorized vehicles, as I called them at the time, because that's actually where this all started, and that was that soapbox car that I built for my daughter, like 12 years ago now. And so having that sort of turnaround, I think it's been really good for me. I managed to build some momentum on my channel, and I think generally I'm just happier with the projects, and you get to drive them too, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
You mentioned your teacher as an inspiration to becoming a maker. Do you have any other inspirations in people you look up to, or?
Yeah, I mean, I always watched other YouTubers. You know, I love watching Colin Firth and people like him building crazy, insane contraptions and fun things like that. But no, not besides that, not really. I just do what I like.
Yeah. So it's mostly not necessarily inspiration in that they inspire you to make stuff, but inspiration in you can make crazy stuff and go and make stuff. Yeah.
And I'm not the type of person to be all like starstruck when I see these people or meet these people. I've met Colin Firth several times, and we even had dinner together. So like it's super nice, but I don't feel like, oh, that was the best day of my life. You know, it's lovely. He's a normal human being, and that's a lot of them in the experience too. Recently in Monte Carlo with this car, you know, we met a lot of famous people, and I didn't once take out my phone to take a selfie. Never, because I think it's the lamest thing you do. You see these people run up to people and they like selfie, and they like turn around like, I'm like, that's so lame. Like, what benefit do you have from that? Why don't you actually talk to them and say hello and have a conversation, instead of just getting the snap that you're going to share on socials saying, look, I stood next to a guy for 3 seconds, took a photo. So
when you distill it down to that, the selfie thing is stupid. Taking a photo with somebody that we did a photo in Monaco, right? You, me, and Frederick at the harbor there, and you can call that a selfie-ish, but there's a story behind why we took that selfie, right?
100%.
And that's the difference, because running up to somebody taking a selfie, the story is I saw someone, I ran up to them, scared the hell out of them, and snapped the photo. Doesn't really have a story to tell. It's just a photo that you were there, and having the discussion, dialogue with them is so much better.
If someone was to run up to me and say like, "Oh, I love your stuff" or whatever, I would want them to have a conversation, not just run in and take a photograph with me.
Yeah.
It's lovely to have these conversations. I met someone at what was that gaming
Spill Expo?
Spill Expo, yeah. I was with my son walking around Spill Expo, and I got stopped by a guy, and he spoke to us for 5-6 minutes.
Yeah.
Just was a fan. That was super lovely, right? I prefer that over someone running in and was like, "Oh, cool, take a photo. Yeah, see you, bye."
Yeah.
I also understand people are all different, and some people are shy, and some people don't want to talk or feel awkward talking. So, as you can tell right now, I have no problem talking.
But the trip to Monaco, do you want to tell the story? How that happened? Why that happened?
Well, I mean, I think we have to start really where I came to you, said, "Can we build a 3D printed rally car?" You said yes, cringingly, thinking that probably I wasn't going to follow through on it.
Hopefully.
And then we were, moving ahead with the projects, learning by failing. And when I had this car on the bench with a 3D printed body with essentially just body filler all over it, I started to realize this is a bit of a thing. Like, maybe this is valuable to Toyota, which is we were building a GR Yaris, and maybe Toyota wanted to be involved in this somehow, and that was weirdly a dream too. I said it in the first video that I made. It's like, what if I could get Auger to drive my car? That didn't happen. Spoiler alert. But what did happen was an amazing experience. So a long story short is essentially that we had managed to get a contact for Jarmo Leighton, which is the team principal of the Toyota Gazoo Racing World Rally Team. I sat down and wrote the best email I could to him, knowing that he's not really the person that's in charge of marketing or anything like this. So sent it to him, heard nothing back. I think that was in May I sent that. And then in July, I get a call from a Belgian number, and I of course didn't pick it up.
Imagine.
Yeah, I was like, hey, what? Belgium? Why do I want to pick that number up? No, thank you. And then I get a text straight after I don't pick up, and it says, it's Hans from the Toyota Gazoo Racing World Rally Team. Could you please give me a call when you have a chance? So yeah, we took the call. There was a lot of ideas flown around, one of which was even taking this thing to Japan and doing things like that. But in the end, what happened was this was we were going to be finished by hopefully November, and that was the goal. And we were going to go to Monaco in January. So the Rallye Monte Carlo. And what an amazing experience that was. And it was really cool to share it with you as well.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. It was so much fun. And the result, the reason you were able to get those connections was because you're good with people and you had an amazing project that really really turn heads at Monaco. But it was a tight deadline, even though it was 13 months in the making.
Yeah, well, I mean, we had Toyota come film in November. We took it to a track and tested it. That's before it looked like it does now.
It was all black.
Yeah, it was all black. We drove it there. I do remember the producer saying, "Holy shit, Justin, I had no idea that this was so fast." I think he thought it was like a little lawnmower engine type thing. You know, it would putt around and so on. But no, it's a thrilling drive, to say that. And then, you know, we actually just had to wait for Toyota to come with the livery. I knew what it looked like, but I was waiting for the files to be sent, and they never came. And so that's where I spent time like designing headlights and taillights and adding extra details in, which I'm very glad I did.
Yeah.
And then, we actually got the files was the 2nd or 3rd of January, and then the car had to be on the truck by the 12th of January.
Yeah.
So we had 10 days to get this thing looking like the real deal. So it was a bit of a push.
One thing I've noticed on the videos are people not understanding what this is. With comments like, "Where's the suspension?" and "windshield wipers." How do you feel about that?
Comments?
Yeah.
You can't please everybody, can you?
No.
I mean, a lot of those comments are people that never followed the project from the start. They don't know that it was just an idea to turn an old go-kart into a World Rally car using a 3D printer, essentially. They don't understand a lot of context. You know, there are people that get upset that I call it a rally car.
Yeah.
You know, because you can't please everybody, can you?
No.
It is what it is. It's a toy. It's a fun thing. It's, you know, it looks like a rally car, but it isn't a rally car. It's a go-kart with a 3D printed shell on the outside of it. And some people have an issue with that.
I feel like a lot of people are looking at your videos and seeing that they're fairly well made, therefore thinking that you've got it made, so you have a lot of money, so you can just throw money at this and make it the perfect rally kart, right?
Yeah.
But there are monetary constraints and time constraints, and having a go-kart chassis and adding suspension to that,
it actually doesn't work.
No.
Because a go-kart chassis is designed to flex. If you decide you're going to put swing arms and everything on it, it changes how it operates, and therefore you must start from scratch again. And, you know, on the money side of things, my credit card was dying on this project alone, let alone thinking about adding suspension and different drive system and all that sort of stuff. So a lot of people, like I said, don't understand the context of the project, and they're always going to have opinions. And I think for most people who put their content out there, you're not going to please everybody. There will be comments that you just think are completely unjustified.
Yeah.
And my way of dealing with those is literally just saying, I hope you have a better day tomorrow. Because anyone that sits down and writes a negative, horrible comment about your project you put out in the world is obviously having a bad day.
Yeah. I don't really understand the mindset of sitting down, watching a video, and then have to comment negative things. Like, were you not entertained, to quote a famous movie? It feels so weird to spend that time watching a project being built and seeing this as it is now being really, really cool, and then bitching about details that is, first of all, impossible to add, and then on top of that, expensive as hell as well.
Yeah, I mean, I would some in my mind, or sometimes I even say out loud, like, "Well, you want to pay? Like, be my guest." I think there is that delusion that because you're on YouTube, you know, you're making money and you can do this. You know, you got an endless budget. Like, it's the opposite.
Yeah.
For most people out there, we're struggling to pay for the projects we put out there in the first place, and then we put them out into the world and get judged, you know, by people who have never built something. And that's another thing I always remember is most of the people who comment have never built anything like it.
Yeah.
So how can you take their comments?
They're living in a utopia where everything is possible for nothing, and they make it in their head, and this is how I would do it, but they never do.
And it's jealousy too, unfortunately. I mean, jealousy does bad things to people, you know? There was a comment left on this video, the Monaco video that we produced, and he went on and on and on. Called me some sort of hack or, you know, and called me a charlatan and all sorts of things. I couldn't believe what he was writing. And I thought, okay, you're obviously having a very bad day. Let me check what you're doing online, you know, and let's have a look at your channel. And he made like RC rally cars. And I suddenly just felt sorry for him because he felt like he wasn't getting his due.
Yeah.
You know, he'd been working obviously on these RC rally cars for a long time and making them his own and custom made. And you know, he felt like I was getting an opportunity that he should have been getting.
Yeah.
And you know, so what did I do? I just love bombed all his videos. I just went on every single one. I watched every single one and I commented on every single video a positive comment about what it was, or this was amazing, or amazing, you know, great job and things like that. And then all of a sudden that comment was deleted.
Yeah. You changed a person's mind.
Well, I don't know about that. But I mean, you've got to put more positivity in the world because people will drag you down.
Yeah.
You know, it's so easy to drag someone down. You know, most people who are doing something different people will drag them down. It doesn't matter whether it's people online, or your mum, your dad, your brother, your sister, your friends. If they don't fully understand what you're doing, they're going to drag you down because they want to be protective, weirdly. They think they are being protective. But it's much better to be supportive in someone's projects and ideas and lift them up than it is to drag them down. Because if you're able to lift somebody up, they can achieve a lot of things.
Yeah,
you know,
you have your biggest fan in your house.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I have to say that, you know, without my wife's support, I wouldn't do what I do. You know, if I had a wife that didn't support me in the way that she does, then I probably wouldn't. I'd be working a 9-to-5 job and probably miserable.
Depressed again. Yeah.
Yeah.
From the comments on the videos about this car, if you go to the real life event in Monaco, this was a head turner. Seeing you come down the first up to the media zone and then drive past all the fans waiting for the big cars.
Yeah.
I think all of them were in awe and kind of confused, because it is the first thing that's coming down is you in this. How did that feel?
Yeah, like I knew most people there didn't understand what was going on, so I was very grateful for the people that enjoyed the project, because they were there to look at real rally cars, and there's this little, you know, tiny rally car with a giant man inside of it, you know, driving past them. They're like, it looks like a real rally car, but what? And I think people weren't expecting it. The media attention in the media zone was really fun and crazy. You know, we had people from all different countries speaking different languages to me, there was a lady speaking Japanese, and then she would switch over to English and ask me questions. And there's French and Spanish and all sorts of media representatives there, and then being on live rally TV as well. Being interviewed and the commentators saying funny things like, we've never seen anything like this before, it's a pretty cool experience.
The fun thing there is that you weren't briefed on any of this. You were put in the car, told to just drive up there, and what happened there, I think it was like 8 or 10 minutes, was the craziest I've ever seen.
And the crazy thing was that for some reason, the team principal Rallye Monte Carlo was told to pretend like I was like a real rally driver or something. He started asking me all these weird questions. I just started laughing because I didn't understand what was going on.
You weren't briefed on what was going to happen, so it was so weird. But it was awesome. And when you parked it in the service area there, and the drivers started coming in, and the drivers turned heads when they walked past their car. That was one with Ogier.
Yeah.
That was, he was on the way into the building and did a double take and stopped and talked with you for a while.
Yeah, that was really cool. That was one of the highlights. It's just to get him, that he stopped in the first place. Busy guy, 9 times world champion, walks past, sees it, thinks, wait a second, what is that? Comes back, and looks in and has some questions, and that was really cool. And then at the end asks, like, is it for sale? I think that was really a cool experience, just to know that someone of that stature in the World Rally Championship thinks it's cool enough that they would potentially buy it. Of course, it's not for sale, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah. He also talked to a lot of other drivers there, and Peter Solberg you talked to.
Yeah.
So we were hanging around there. It felt so weird because usually when you're seeing things from the outside, you want to be on the inside, right? Mm-hmm. But being on the inside, it felt so wrong for so many reasons. I didn't feel like I was supposed to be there.
Yeah, neither did I.
You have people just like looking through the glass walls into the
where us eating a nice meal with Oliver Solberg and other rally drivers next to us.
Yeah. And when we were at Monaco, when we were on, almost all the time we were at the other side of the barriers. Looking at all the people looking at us, feeling so out of place. But those are the opportunities you're given when you're doing stuff like this, and you're as adamant of making it perfect as you are. Getting the connections, getting the people to believe in you, and you actually deliver.
I think the key is delivery.
Yeah.
You can have all the ideas in the world, but if you don't consistently deliver, people won't take you seriously. It's a harsh reality of it. So finishing projects is super important. Setting yourself deadlines. If there's no one waiting for a delivery of a project, then make sure you set yourself some deadlines. It's super important. And just believe in yourself, right? It's easier said than done. I have, even today I'm moping around because I'm not sure where the future lays, right? Where we go with this. We're relying on other people in the world to make decisions, and I have to sit on my hands and just wait. And I feel like out of control. So I don't feel good about that. But what I do have in my power is to do the best I can when I'm here in the garage and when I present my work out there into the world, and that's the most important part. And I think you can't just turn around and make this car. You have to do a lot of things wrong on the way. You have to try some stuff. You have to build up to it, and you have to, again, execute. There's 1,000 of people that will start something and never finish it.
Yeah.
The people that actually execute and finish, they're the ones that win in the end.
Going forward now, hopefully this video comes out the 1st of April. And a few days after this video goes up, you will be on the road with this again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where are you going?
We got a spot at the Elmia custom car show. It's like the biggest car show in Scandinavia, or actually Europe, I think.
Oh.
So it's pretty cool. We'll be there presenting the car to the public. They'll get to have a look at it up close, which is super nice. It's not really been out in public except for at Monte Carlo. And even then, because no one really knew it existed and weren't looking for it, a lot of people missed it. I have quite a lot of views on YouTube from the last video. About 400,000 people have seen it, so it's pretty cool. We'll take it to these events. We have plans now to also take it to a festival called the Goodwood Festival of Speed. That's in the UK. That's super exciting too. That's like the biggest motorsport festival in the world. That's where all the Formula One teams are, all the off-road teams are, all the touring cars, you name it in motorsport, they're there. So to be able to be there with Toyota, with my car, and potentially drive up the hill, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
That guy's a big deal, dude. And in a shitty go-kart with a 3D printed body, it's not bad for a guy that made it in his garage here in Norway. So it's really cool.
Yeah.
And who knows what comes of this next. I mean, we're trying to predict that by creating ideas about building a second version, a better version.
Yeah.
Which is exciting, but unfortunately, we talked about money. Can't just use my credit card to build it, unfortunately. That's maxed out already. I'm still paying off this project. Come on, YouTube. Come on.
You also have a few other events planned for this, maybe?
There's potentially a couple others. Gatebil, and also Rallye Estonia.
Yeah.
They're the ones that we kind of are in talks about at the moment. So it's again putting your work out there and showing people. But it's a funny thing. Like, I'm done with this.
Yeah.
Like, I'm finished with it. I just want to move on to the next point.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I don't think people quite understand. Is I don't care about the project after it's finished. Like, it's cool to have here, and it's really nice to have in the garage. But like, it's taking up a lot of space.
When you go to festivals and stuff like that, it takes time that you could be making other projects, right?
Yeah, I mean, for anyone who's going to festivals, you know how long it takes.
Yeah.
It's driving to the festival, it's setting up, it's being in the festival, it's packing down, driving back. A weekend festival is really 4 to 5 days, depending on how much stuff you're bringing with you. If you're bringing stock to sell, like, you've got to create that stock or even buy in that stock or whatever you're doing. It's a big deal going to these things, and it takes a lot of time and effort.
And usually the day after, you're pooped. You're just don't want to exist anymore.
Yeah.
Just want to lay on the couch. But you mentioned a few things there, Gatebil and Goodwood and Rallye Estonia. And those are basically the same 2-3 weeks.
All events none of your audience understands at all, probably.
Yeah. But it's going to be, you have to go to a place, set up, pack down. Your wind down is getting in the car and driving to the next event. And setting up, doing the event, rigging down, and your come down from that event is to get in the car, drive to the third event, and then I assume you will be crashing then after Rallye Estonia.
Yeah, I assume so. Who knows? It could be ramping up to version 2. Who knows?
Yeah. Talk about version 2. I usually end these talks with the moonshot. And I'm going to guess that is your moonshot right now, the V2.
No, I think it's bigger than that, actually.
Okay. So you want to talk about V2 now, and you can do your moonshot later?
No, let's bake it all into one.
Yeah.
So, I mean, V2 is a better version of this car. Made properly with a real chassis that can go on different terrain, dirt, tarmac, snow even. And we want to be able to deliver it highly dynamic chassis that's incredibly powerful, and there's just absolute barrel laughs to drive, and it should be small like this one, you know. That's what's really unique about this project. It is small, and that's what makes it enjoyable to look at and to potentially see as well driving, is it's just the size of it. So yeah, basically we want to create that. We're in talks with a couple of people at the moment about developing that idea and potentially getting some funding, which is super exciting, but again, nerve-wracking because you're waiting on them to actually greenlight the project, which is scary in many regards too. Let's be honest, we are not a manufacturing company here or anything like that. So yeah, basically V2 will be the next version, but really my moonshot is, you know, transitioning away from YouTube weirdly as the main idea of how I would make a living, and transition into making these type of vehicles more seriously as a production or a factory where we make handmade, unique monsters, tiny monsters, you know.
Yeah.
And I want to work with, my moonshot is to work with, you know, the big names in motorsport and on other platforms, so that, you know, we can share the excitement of these little machines that we're going to be building. So that's the moonshot, is to actually make a viable business out of this and go to work happy. You know, it's a funny thing because that's realistically the main goal. The main goal is to go to a workplace where you feel valued, you're excited about what you're doing, you get to share it with people that really care about what you're doing, and that's the key. I think how many people watching this now have had shit bosses, you know, and shit places to work and don't feel valued. That's what I want to create. I want to create a workplace where all the right people come. So
I want to touch upon something you mentioned there, because in a lot of the earlier episodes here, we talked about the third space, right? You know what that is?
No, explain.
It's basically you have home, you have work, and you have the third space, which is some other activity, some other place you go to be social, right?
Yeah.
So cosplay and those kind of things, cosplay events, is basically the third place for a lot of people, where they socialize with their nerd friends, right?
Yeah.
They're the outcasts, the people that don't fit into sports and stuff like that. But the thing you are touching upon here that is equally important is the second place, your work. That you have a workplace that, okay, this is not necessarily the best point, but that it values you. The most important thing is that you feel valued and that you enjoy working there, that you're not moping around, because you're there for a third of the day, right?
Yeah, a huge part of your day is at work, and so why would I go do something that I didn't enjoy, considering how many hours I'm there a week?
Yeah.
You know, this is really fun to do this, but it's also very lonely. You know, I'm in here alone doing things. It's much better to have a team around you. Like, you could argue I could build this channel big enough that I have a team, but, you know, there's been a transition in the last couple of months where I realized I don't want to pander for views.
Yeah.
And, you know, for views, I have to turn this into the next best thing, like the bigger, better, faster, all this, right? To keep the views. And I don't want to do that.
You also had when you describe what you want to do with this for V2, it seems to me like you're doing now. You're showing people, but this is fun through a screen. But you want to transition to having people experience that fun for themselves, like driving with this on their own, and that's cool. That's when you do YouTube, you end up doing a lot of work for a few views, right? In your case, 400,000 views, it's a lot of views, but Jesus Christ, you work for it. I reckon if you get one person to buy one of those cars and drive around with a grin on their face, that's worth more.
Well, I mean, you drive this thing now, and there's no doubt you come out with a smile on your face.
And a bad back.
Yeah, well, no, maybe not. Well, but you come out of there smiling, which is really great. But the problem with it is that it is just on video. There's not many people who get to experience it. And okay, let's be honest, making these cars is not going to be for everybody. Not many people are going to be able to afford them because, they're going to be expensive. But to share that joy and then also document that journey of building this idea into a business, I think is really cool to share with people as well. And, the main goal, like I said, is to just be in a great workplace, to have so much fun at work that everyone doesn't want to leave.
Yeah.
I think that's the main goal. It should be like, in your words, the second space and the third space blend together.
Yeah. And your overtime is actually fun.
Yeah,
you want to do the overtime.
And there's benefits to doing the work you do. You get to experience things and do things that you wouldn't have got to do with a normal, boring job, right?
Yeah, like going to Monaco.
Yeah, right. I see a vision of us building these mini cars and touring the world and going to America and all these sort of things. And that's my moonshot, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun seeing how that develops, and hopefully you'll have some news soon.
I don't know, but we'll find out.